we're proud to present as a series divided in 12 sessions, taking each sign of the zodiac as a challenge for the path of the philosopher, a path, or heroic path. And we can associate to this the works of Heracles from the Greek mythology, and discover how they actually inform us about how to live those moments around the cycle of the year. So, but let's look how all that dances, how that coordinates together. Okay, the stellar constellations on the ecliptic, that's what you see here around. And what we call the ecliptic is pretty much where all the planets, you know, like on a flat disk of the solar system, turn around the sun, and they form like a plate. But seen from the Earth here, we see the sun, and if you look in that direction, if we could see, let's say, block the sun and see the starry sky behind, we would see the constellations. But they're also back, if you look at midnight, on the other side, away from the sun, we would see the opposite sign. So there's this big circle with all the signs around. They're written in French, but there's also the three-letter, you know, you can guess what they are, just, you know, Libra, Scorpio. But these are constellations, groups of stars. And they're traveled by these divine entities, living entities, such as the sun, the planets, as seen from the Earth. So since we have relationship with those living entities, it is meaningful to be able to understand where they stand at any time. Okay. And that is an astronomical zodiac. So that's our first introduction to what a zodiac is. The zodiac is that set of symbolic signs for each grouping of stars that is not necessarily a group of stars that actually exist in the sky together. It's just seen from the planet Earth. They're in the same corner, and they were used as a way to remember these archetypes, to remember that region of the sky, since it's linked to a time of a season or linked to a greater cycle that we will see in a few minutes. We have that way of hiding and making available those keys forever, because how could you lose them if you put them in the sky? So the 12 archetypes, the signs of the astrological zodiac, also can be drawn like this. But you see, I do on purpose want to see a sun in the middle as that source of life and light. Now, what is an archetype? Let's ask Carl Gustav Jung. Some of you may know that psychologist of the beginning of the 20th century. He says a tendency of the human mind, it is a tendency of the human mind to use the same form of representation given a priori, containing a universal theme, structuring the psyche, and common to all cultures, but represented in various symbolic forms. You would speak of collective unconscious and how we have all access, but not just access, but our own minds, all human beings of every culture operate according to this hidden skeleton, hidden structure in space-time. And this is so universal that we can find these archetype of the zodiac. The zodiac itself has been used by the Babylonians, Egypt, Judea, Persia, India, Tibet, China, North and South America, Scandinavia countries, Muslim, Ottoman Empire, the Celtic, the Norse. They all use the zodiac. and even the 12th sign, and there was also another one based on the moon. Now, let's come back to other aspects, other kinds of zodiac, because we saw this one already, but I'm just zooming on it to see how from that same zodiac, there's another one that we can become familiar with, and that is actually more linked to what we're talking about today in terms of the season, the energy type of the moment. So on March 21st, it is spring. And if we look through the sun, we see that it points to this place where the sun would be, and it is in Pisces in terms of a constellation. Aries, which would be normally the first sign of spring, is not really there. It's already past. So what we really have is that moment is going to be what they call the vernal point, or this moment of the first day of spring. And yes, it is at 5 degrees of the Pisces out of 30 degrees. And but it is going to be the beginning of an astrological zodiac. So I'll show you this on the next slide, how the two zodiacs coexist. So the middle one is the one we saw already before, astronomical, based on stars. But let's remember, these are starlights from one universal spiritual sun. Every star is alive through a universal connection of its own galaxy and all the galaxies. Now, so we see also the length and the space between each sign is simply different because they're spread of stars, they're not equal size. Yet, the other one that is on the outer circle is going to be our astrological zodiac with 0 degree of Aries starting here, and you see it is in the Pisces constellation indeed. And it will go around. So it's good to know there's two different, and there's actually a third zodiac, but I'll show it quickly after. But the important point here is that that's where the path of the physical sun, and the source of our vital light, goes through the seasons. And maybe to say also that that different position changes through time. It changes through 26,000 years. There is a precession of the axis of the Earth around which the Earth turns. It's the angle of the Earth. And like a top, you know, it's slowly in 26, I'll put this in front of me, 26,000 years, it goes like a top. You know, the North Star would be my finger pointing. And it would be a different star. That would be the North Star. 26,000 years, that means every 21 and 60 years, that point here that stays Aries for the seasons would shift, and the next shift is towards here, the Aquarian, the Aquarian sign. And that shift into the Aquarian sign is actually, we're on the edge of it. And it's going to officially begin in 2100 and good for another 2,000 years till 4300. And that shows here how technically we can talk about astronomical with constellation, tropical, which is the seasonal zodiac, and there's a sidereal zodiac for the people who actually give it a position that they don't want to change for every star, like latitude and longitude. And they use the sidereal zodiac. So different conventions, fine, but what's beautiful is they all use the zodiac, even though they do for different purposes. So their hero, that can be each of us, you know, but Heracles is a human being who through his 12 labors will be in the end accepted amongst the gods. So it is about the evolution of the human consciousness, the evolution of the human being. But to evolve, we see that, you know, since the sun goes through the zodiac, so it is like seen from the earth, our heroic sun travels through the trials of the 12 signs of the zodiac. Each trial allows for the acquisition of a virtue and a strength with a removal also of layers of habits and perceived limits for the conscious recovery of immortality. So it is a purification guided by a philosophical way of life that frees oneself from obstacles through those 12 labors. Harmonize our inner and outer life. And this will allow us to reinvent our destiny. So we see here 12 signs